Hi, welcome to Stat Sisters. My name is Carrie, and I talk each week with my sister Erin about all things nursing, with the occasional Harry Potter thrown in. We talk about the nursing topics that you care about. We also chat about nurses in the news, and most importantly, answer your questions. All right, Erin, we successfully finished all of the Halloween activities. How was your Halloween last night?
It was fantastic. We had a great time. Our neighborhood was rocking and had some people had like little bonfires going in their driveways and like block party style. It was great. Good candy, good haul overall.
I loved your costume. I
Oh,
love Jenny.
thank you. Of course. I loved yours. You were like River Song's twin, I think.
Thanks. I had a lot of fun. We had fun. There wasn't, I think because it was Monday night, there just wasn't as many people giving out candy and trick or treating
Yeah.
as normal.
I
So that
saw,
was a
yeah, we were
bummer.
talking about that too. We were like, back in my day, there was every
Yeah.
house.
Yeah. And I think even last year there was like a floodmageddon and it was like super floody and everything, but seemed like there was more people out that day than yesterday. But we still had a great time and the kids had fun.
Well, good. Win win.
Yes, and today is that we're recording this on the day of our launch and it's been going well. I'm really excited.
I know. I'm so excited. It is like, I tried to not get preconceived notions, but I'm really pumped.
Me too. And we have far exceeded our 7 people that we predicted.
We are way more than 7 people at this point. We're at like 11. Just kidding.
So I am like super happy. Thank you everybody for listening on the first day. Thank you for being the brave people to jump in there at the very beginning. If you're new, welcome. And thanks for all the comments and shares and we just really appreciate it. And I still don't have a question though from anybody. So
Oh,
please
I
ask us
know.
your questions so we can highlight them on this podcast.
So we can do real questions from real people instead of fake questions from fake people.
Yes, exactly. That is our goal. And you can send those questions to Twitter at Stat Sisters or Gmail account, which is statsisters at Gmail. You can hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, and what else are we on? Everything. YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes. Comment,
We're
question.
everywhere. We're like your mom. We're everywhere.
So we have some great topics today. And the first one is what makes a good boss? And we both have bosses and we've both been bosses. So I feel like we have a lot of insight into this. But I'm also interested, Erin, to hear what you think makes a good boss because I am always trying to be a better boss.
Oh, and I think you do a good job. I mean, of course, I'm not your employee, but from what I hear on your effort, it sounds like you're trying. But in my opinion, I think what
I
makes a
think effort is a code word for complaining.
no, no, no. You
I never,
legitimately,
I never
you
complain about
never
work.
complain. No, I won't say that. You complain, but you put some legit work into it. No, I think there's a few things, maybe like a quadfecta instead of like a trifecta of what makes it. We like coin that phrase. I don't know what makes
I
a good
think
boss.
that
I
we
think
already have. This is like the third time we've used it.
I think we should quadfecta copyright, copyright pending. No, I think obviously you have to have a working knowledge base. You have to know what's going on. You have to have experience in that field. So if it's pertinent to nursing, then definitely having been a nurse. If we're talking hospital nursing, which largely we are, in the hospital, ground floor, working in the trenches, and specifically to the unit, of course, that you're in. So you need to know your unit's policies, you need to know the norms, you need to have a good, extensive working knowledge. I think second to that is you have to care. You have to have heart, and you have to um, be invested in your employees and care about your staff and about what's going on in their lives and advocate for them and their professional needs. And I think you show that by reaching out to them and making one-on-one time with them and getting to know them, getting to know not just their names, but, oh, that's Erin and she's got a million kids and she's a Harry Potter nut and, she loves dark chocolate and things like that. I think that those two things are probably, I think, one of the biggest. And then, of course, you have to be able to, on the flip side of that coin, um, still be impartial and still be bipartisan when it comes to enforcing policies. You definitely want to help your nurses out, but you have to be able to, be fair and impartial, so you're not showing favoritism. Um, when you're dealing with your employees, and because that of course creates a lot of animosity and grumbling in the ranks. And I think if you're doing those, well, maybe it is a trifecta. If you're doing those three things, unless we come up with a fourth one here, that I really think helps with retention. I think, that makes your staff be, they like you. And when your staff likes you, they want to stay and they're happier and they're more productive and they do a better job, rather than just feeling like they're a number to fill a slot on your staffing sheet. So I think just kind of shooting from the hip, I would say knowledge base, you know, be emotionally invested in your staff, and then and to be fair.
I I like all those. I would add, like, the thing that pops off the top of my head is transparency,
Yes.
which is hard sometimes because you are bound both legally and politically a lot of times to not say things.
Right.
And but being as transparent as possible, I think is very important.
Absolutely. I think that goes a long way to trust. And even if it's saying, like, you know what, guys, I understand this situation is not ideal, but, this isn't a unit problem. This is a processing, like at a larger level, and just letting them know this is something I don't have control over. Um, Here's maybe what we can do, or like, hey, you know what, we can't do anything about that. I think just being transparent, even when it's something that isn't positive, um, is a good thing, rather than your nurses feeling in the dark or feeling maybe like, if you don't talk about it at all, your nurses feel like you just don't care. But if you explain,
Exactly.
hey, my hands are tied, this is not a unit policy, this is a hospital policy, then I think that makes a difference, because that knowledge makes a big difference in people's minds.
I think it really does. And when you hit on that, like if your staff like you, then that goes a long way. But that doesn't mean that you're popular. They,
Right.
they, y- doesn't mean, like, for me, okay, so I give candy to people, but I know that's not why my staff appreciate me. They, of course, they appreciate candy, but you know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's not because of the candy. You can't buy people, and you can't, like, some people are very charismatic, which I am not. But I those type of people, they have a following at first, and but if things are not delivered, then people will revolt on you. And
Absolutely.
I'm
It
not
peters out.
talking about, our national politics, although I could be. But you can draw your own parallels. But
Elections in a week.
I know, I can't wait till that is over.
I swear. I do, but then we'll wake up the next day and be like, oh,
Oh,
sorry. Anyways.
life will be okay no matter what happens. I just keep telling everybody I know that everything will work out. But anyway, back to being a boss. I think part of being a good boss is being a leader, and also being able to pick up the slack. Of course, nobody expects you. Well, okay, I'm not going to say that because some people just expect you to do everything. But reasonable people do not expect you to pick up all the slack. But when you're down there, right elbow to elbow with people when they're struggling and you're trying to help them, they notice that.
Oh, absolutely. It goes a long ways.
It really does. That's another reason why transparency is so good, because sometimes I can't do something for somebody that they want. And so I try to explain to them why. Like, for example, if they really want me to give them lunches, like one time someone, they wanted me to come and help them with their lunches, which I do that a lot. But that day I was interviewing employees, I mean, future candidates. So I was like, I'm sorry, I cannot do that because this is a meeting I cannot cancel. I'm trying to hire more nurses. And they're like, okay, bye.
Right. Right. Rather than just saying, no, I don't have time for that today. It
Exactly.
yeah, it gives a completely different feel. I mean, I like your candy analogy because I mean, who doesn't love a candy bowl on their director's desk? But
Yes.
I had a previous director who was kind of a dragon, and that individual always did have candy and really good candy and dark chocolate, which is my like total favorite. But that did not endear me to that director. What spoke way louder was hanging your nurses out to dry and throwing them under the bus and not following through on your words and not helping when your staff was drowning. And, those things, like you said, those, yes, that might be an initial icebreaker, but you have to walk the walk as well. And, really be there for your staff and truly care about them. I'm not saying you have to, memorize our employee profile or anything, but, when we come to, when an employee comes to you, um, genuinely caring, paying attention, being present in those conversations, whether it's a 30-second conversation in the hallway or, a meeting in your office, being emotionally present, and I think following up that closed loop communication that, we nurses love, irregardless as to the outcome, following up and saying, hey, I found out that information for you, or I found that employee policy you were looking for, or, whatever it happens to be, that just once again shows that you're emotionally invested um, in your staff rather than just there being a rule enforcer, you know. We all have
Absolutely.
mamas. We don't need one at work.
Right. Absolutely. So all of what you just said is super draining on a person. And so
Totally.
it is really hard to maintain that. And I appreciate when nurses or other employees give me a break,
Mhm.
or give me some good feedback, because we all have our little buckets. I'm sure everyone's heard this bucket analogy. And leaders, good leaders, are constantly filling other people's buckets, and you go home drained a lot. But I wanted to share, I'm so excited about this topic because I wanted to share this great experience I had where one of my nurses called me randomly. I was at home, no, I was driving around town doing errands, and she just called me on the phone because I give my phone number to everybody. And she's like, hey, I just wanted to tell you that I am in school, I'm getting my master's, and my first class are talking about all these theories. And thank you for doing the things that are in the books. Like,
Oh, yay! Good for you.
and she doesn't know how amazing that made me feel because I don't go around and talk about, like, well, now I'm doing this.
Right.
Like,
Well, and as the manager, you can't talk about my bucket is empty. I am totally
I
emotionally
know.
drained today. Can you please give me accolades?
No,
You
I
you
know.
can't
That's
do
really
that.
weird. I can't do that. But
But it's
I
true.
like, it was a while ago that she called me, but I'm just like still so like thankful to have that feedback. Like somebody, like I'm helping somebody,
Yeah.
and
And
she let me know about it, and it was great. So thank
in my
you.
experience, that's fabulous. In my experience, when those moments happen and your staff does give back, it lasts a long time. Like that one little incident to me, like that fills me up for a long time. It makes me feel, I get the warm fuzzies for quite a while. So it's, I don't know, it just kind of works out that way. It doesn't take a whole lot of them to replenish that managerial energy, I guess. I don't know how to
Yes.
say,
Yeah, I
but
know. I
no,
totally get that.
definitely. So I guess
Okay.
maybe the last thing I'd tag in there is just what you just mentioned is being available, to your staff to actually whether it's your phone number or your email or you actually have office hours that people can find you, but actually, along with being emotionally invested in your staff is making sure they can get a hold of you. It doesn't have to be 24/7, but that you are actually approachable. A lot of people say open door policy, but if you're not there emotionally and you're not there physically and you're not there and you're not nice, nobody's actually going to come in that door.
Yeah,
So,
they're just no, they'll go somewhere else or they just won't come. But no,
exactly.
that's not a thing that everyone does. Like give out their personal number, but I think it's more common. And I found that for millennials, it is super important. And
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
nice for everybody, but I think the people that are younger than us, like they have utilized that a lot more, and they feel more comfortable reaching out to me. And I tell them you can call me or text me any time of the day or night, but if I am sleeping or busy, I won't answer. So don't
Right.
worry about it. I will not answer. I'll get back to you.
Right.
And
Right. It's not a
it's
problem.
right, it's not a problem because, I'm up all the time anyway. But I let them
Exactly.
know, like, if I don't, so I just let them know that I will manage my own phone. So don't worry if I'm doing stuff with my kids or I'm sleeping or I'm at church or whatever, that I won't answer. So they don't feel guilty. They can just let me know what's going on.
Right. No big deal. You're not interrupting anything. I'll get back to you when it's convenient for me, but you're more than welcome to try to get a hold of me. So
Yes.
awesome. All right.
All right, let's move on to a new topic. So, first code. And when we're talking about code, just in case there's some non medical people, that means different things. But we're talking about when people stop breathing or stops beating, and you have to resuscitate them, and hopefully it's effective. So, do you want
Yep,
me to
we're
start
talking
with this one?
code blue is what we're inferring here, or referring to, I guess, is rather.
Um, let's see. So my very first code, I was in nursing school, and so I'm not going to talk about that one because I stood. They like rushed me in because it was like my ER rotation. They're like, somebody's coming in, and they're bagging him, and I was like, okay. And so like I was just pressed up against the wall, and I remember vividly handing someone in like an ambu bag, like, and I felt like I had done something important. But anyway, fast
You
forwarding,
had. So let's go. Let's fast forward.
fast forward to like
Because
when
I think no matter where you are in your experience, because some nurses, I've known some nurses who've been nurses for 5, 6 years who have never been in on a code blue. And so wherever you are in your experience, whenever you hit your first code, whether you're working in tele or ICU or ER or a med surge floor or pediatrics or NICU, no matter where you are, your first code, no matter how much training you've done, which of course we all do our simulations, we do our trainings, we do our modules, we do our BLS and our ACLS and our PALS and our stable and our NRP, but irregardless as to where you are, you still want to crap your pants.
oh yeah, yes, and
It's just like
sometimes
you forget everything. You're just like, I don't know what to do. So it's
no.
it's
During an
yeah.
RRT one time, I had to leave and go to the bathroom because I literally like had a problem. It was terrible. I'm like, I was like, I gotta go. I'll be right back. But my first code was when my first year of nursing. I think it was the first few months. It was my patient, and he had been like a real jerk to me all night.
Uh,
And I'm not going to say what his medical problem was, but it was something that he wasn't controlling. And he just was so mean to me. And his family didn't want to talk to him. Like, and he kept telling me, like, okay, so he was just really mean. And then, like, later that night, because I was working night shift, he just kept calling me and calling me. And then he said, like, he was gonna die, that he was gonna die,
oh, no, 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 bad sign.
and just but so energetic, like, it's not that I ignored him because I totally called the physician like a whole bunch of times, and we had checked stuff. Like there was nothing. He threw a clot, so he probably already had thrown it before, but there was nothing that we could see that he was like gonna die. But anyway, he did stop breathing, and then I did want to poop myself, and I was terrified. And it's so weird because when you're in a code, like when I went in there and he was all ashen and like obviously not breathing, which is not always so obvious. It's so weird that they tell you only check for 6 seconds. There's a
What?
reason.
6 seconds? No way. That seems like an eternity too while you're doing it, by the way.
Isn't CPR like you can't do it more than 6 seconds? Like you're supposed to just like check and start doing stuff.
It's at least 5, no more than 10. So yeah, by the time because they want you on the chest within 10 seconds. And so usually, it's about a 6, 7 second check, which seems like for ever when you are pretty sure that person is not breathing or doesn't have a heartbeat.
Yes. So, anyway, he looked terrible, and I knew he wasn't breathing right away, but sometimes people look kind of terrible all the time anyway, and it's hard to tell. Um, so I called the code and everything, and everybody came, and I was a primary nurse, so at the place I was, you just kind of are there for the information, and
Right.
so people know what's going on, and then you're responsible for calling like the physician and everything. Anyway, I was so naive, and his color like totally changed, and he looked really good, and I thought, well, he's totally going to come back, and he didn't. But they were oxygenating him.
Right. They were giving it to him.
Yes, and so he did not make it, and then I was so sad, and the saddest part was there was two things. It was so hard for me just to reconcile everything in my brain, because after it was over, like, then we got him ready for the morgue and everything, and then life just totally went on. Like,
Hmm.
nobody was like, "Are you okay?" Like, just, I got a new patient in that room that night. Like, it was so
Right.
weird. And then also, like, his family called, like, after the physician, like, called them and told them, like, they called, and then this guy had been such a jerk to his family. I felt bad, and I tried to make it better, because they were like,
Oh.
I didn't make up anything, but
Oh, good.
I said, because that's not ethical, but I was like, yeah, he did mention you today, but I didn't say what he said.
It may not have been favorable.
And, I just said I was really sorry, and I can't remember. It was a very short conversation, but ugh, it was terrible. And I
Oh,
felt
that's yucky.
bad. But when patients tell you they're going to die, definitely listen to that.
Oh my gosh, listen to them. That is a bad sign. I mean, once in a while, yes, you get that little anxious, anxiety ridden person or somebody who's faking, but usually the fakers, they don't say those words. They don't say like, "Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm going to die." Or I have this feeling like, I feel like I'm dying. They usually say other things. So yeah, when you hear those words, boom, girl, all hands on deck. You better be paying attention because they're about to crump on you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, my first code actually was I had been a nurse for a few years and working med surg, and for some reason I hadn't been in on one. They always happened like after my shift or somewhere else. And so my first code that I was in on was not my patient. Um, but I was surprised actually how long I had got, and then I had a whole smear of them, I swear. But it was my coworker's patient, and she had actually just discharged him and taken out his line. He had his papers and was like changing his clothes to get ready to call transport
Oh,
for him to
no.
leave. And was a younger gentleman, like I don't even know that he was maybe 40. But must have I think it's like stood up or something when getting ready to leave and just stopped breathing, heart stopped, and fell like a tree. I mean, it was like a okay. So we all went running in there, of course, because there's this big, loud crashing sound, and we're like, "What the heck just happened?" And there he is, gray as day, laying on the ground, and we were like, holy crap. And I was like, wait a minute, I thought this was Colleen's patient. Aren't they going home? I thought they were going home. Like, they're not allowed to do this. They're supposed to be leaving. Obviously, that was not happening. And so, of course, I don't know about you, but I never get like the little tiny people that go. They're always these really big ones, and it's so hard to move them and do compressions and all of that. And so I just remember just feeling so panicked, and I remember thinking like, I know I've trained for this. I know I have, certifications. I know I can do this, but I remember thinking like, I have no idea what to do right now. And so
Yeah.
I don't even remember. Somebody else had hit the code blue button. So the code team, thank heavens for the code team and the RTs because they are there so fast, which is just amazing. So anyways, we got him rolled over and of course had to get a line in the poor guy because didn't have an IV. But by then, your blood pressure, you're hypotensive, and everybody knows that in the middle of a code or rapid response is like the absolute worst time to try to get a line in somebody because they're not perfusing. And so it took probably 6 or 7 attempts, and we finally got a couple peripheral IVs in him and started compressions right there on the ground. Before I think the code team was just barely rolling in, and it was sweaty and it was bloody and it was gross. And I remember thinking, like, oh my gosh, this is like the one thing TV medicine actually got right. Because every time you see a code on, Grey's Anatomy or whatever, like the room is just a big old mess. It's true. We are
Yes.
slobs. We are total slobs. And anyway, so it was messy and it was stinky and it was, hot. And so we started compressions and got the pads on him. And actually, he came to after, I think it was like the first round of compressions. We did compressions for like 2 minutes, and it started to analyze, and he had a good rhythm, and he wasn't very cognizant, but he was conscious, and we were able to. I mean, he was still really ashen and diaphoretic, and we didn't even have to bag him. He was able to get transferred to the ICU, and then was, I think, transferred to a step down unit the next day and home, like within a few days, which was amazing.
Oh, that's
Um,
crazy.
yeah, and I remember thinking, like, oh my gosh, it's not supposed to work like that. I mean, it is supposed to work like that, but it rarely does. Success rates for codes are very low, even when everybody does their jobs properly. It's just the way it is. And I remember being amazed that he came back at all, and that he responded so quickly. And so that, I think, was kind of a good experience for a first code because it had a positive outcome. I saw things work the way they're supposed to work, and I got my feet wet, and it wasn't this big gnarly nasty code that lasted 30, 45 minutes to an hour, like some of them have been. So when my next code came around, I was still terrified, but I was like, I've done this before. I may not remember, I may not have ACLS at that point, and I may not know, how much the drugs to push for what and when and where, but I knew, okay, let's, get him in position. Let's get the pads on. Let's make sure we have, IV access. Let's even clean up the crap off the floor so we're not slipping when we're trying to help, the patient. I mean, any of those things were helpful in the future. But yeah, it's definitely a feeling you don't enjoy repeating. All right, so moving on from to a less depressing topic.
Yep. Yeah, what's our next topic here?
Work-life balance, and what is that?
This is a
That's
hard
I don't.
one.
It is. I mean, I don't know. I think, in my experience, I think employers are becoming more cognizant of this, and they're trying harder to create a work-life balance for us. Not always, but I think it's actually, people. I think it's on people's radar now. Is what I'm trying to say.
I agree, Aaron. I think, especially with a lot of hospitals trying to become magnet status, and just doing the right thing for their employees, that they're looking more into this work-life balance. And honestly, um, I think it's a generational thing. Boomers, their work was their life, and
Absolutely.
family, but work defined who they were. And
Hmm.
Generation X really, once they, stopped being slackers and stuff and then moved into the work field, like, I'm Generation X. So they, it just dug in and you just do what you have to do. And then,
Right.
but this new wave of people coming in are so smart, and they're like, no, we are nurses, but we also, that's not what defines us. We have
Right.
lives, even
Right.
though they may not have children, or the like a traditional thing that we think of as like your home life.
They're
Um,
still a person. They're still an individual. They're a
yes,
mother, a sister, a friend, and a spouse, a
yes.
lover. They're a person, and not just a nurse.
And they
You know,
demand that we respect that. And I think it's good for the rest of us that have just been working
Absolutely.
ourselves to death. Like, like, oh yeah,
Right.
we can say no to stuff and we can work things out so it's beneficial for everybody.
Right, absolutely. And you're not going to, it's not about finding balance, 100% balance 100% of the time. It's like a marriage. That's just not the way it is. But it's the overriding factor that there's give and take, and that there's conversations that are being opened, and transparency, like we mentioned earlier with our directors and our bosses, and in attempts to try to be fair. And that means sometimes you're going to give, and that means sometimes somebody else is going to give. But the overriding theme is we're working on it, and we're working on not feeling like we're married to the hospital and we have to put that above everything else, in our life, that we can be flexible in our scheduling. We can, whether it's self-scheduling or allowing trades, so you can go to your kid's soccer game, or you can go to your husband's um, you know, holiday parties, or whatever it is that is interesting to you in your life. If you want to be every Tuesday night, I want to sit at home on my couch watching reruns of I Love Lucy and eating Cheetos. Hey, more power to you.
Oh, that reminds me, because Cheetos is like our unofficial sponsor. We should
Absolutely.
we should give them a shout out. This podcast is brought to you by Cheetos because
Hi,
Cheetos
Cheetos.
apparently is what nurses
we,
eat.
and I hardly ever eat Cheetos, but we do bring that up
I know.
all the time.
I do enjoy a good Cheeto.
I'm a crunchy Cheeto girl. I'm not a puffy Cheeto girl.
Oh, I do not discriminate. I like them both, but I do not like the spicy, like the super spicy ones.
Oh,
No.
like the
The
jalapeno ones
fire or
or the
hot or
fire.
whatever. Uh-oh. Oh no. It's like eating dirt. Do we have any other sponsors? This podcast is brought to you by Ambu Bags. They are right within reach. Even a nursing student can grab one.
We love amber bags. Can't forget our last sponsor. We are sponsored by Adult Diapers. We're there for you when you need to crap your pants during that first code.
When the code blue turns into a code brown.
That's fabulous. Oh, our
Thank
poor
you.
audience.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
guys. We're running on
Okay.
post Halloween candy high today.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's
Oh,
move
okay.
on
So
to our
we could have digressed. Did we even get to work-life balance?
Aaron, I know we're talking about how hospitals make it good for us, but sometimes, let's be honest, it's not good and they don't really have an interest in fixing your work-life balance, right? So,
Preach to me,
okay,
sister.
so um
Or sometimes their efforts just they're not enough because maybe there's just, too much going on.
yes, I'm not going to give them I'm not going to give hospitals a pass on everything because there are some things that they can do, but I do, as an administrator type person, I do have sympathy, and so sometimes I just put it too much on myself. But honestly, I have been miserable at my work before, and it really wasn't the work I was doing, it was the work life balance. And we were kind of overlapped a little bit on this. It was a couple years ago, and
Mm-hmm. Oh,
this
yes.
was like a topic that we talked about every day ad nauseum.
Multiple times.
Like we had to
It
take
was,
breaks from the negativity because it was just like compounding on each other. We're like, okay, we can't talk about this anymore.
we were like, we're going to be positive today. We're not going to say a single negative thing
Yes.
today.
And then we would fail because we were just so miserable and it was just like perpetuating itself. So even though there was positive things going on, we were so focused on I hate that I have to leave my kids. I hate that I have all these unpredictable hours that it just affected everything. It tainted everything.
Long hours. Well, and that's how consuming It can be when you aren't having that work life balance. And I know, like we just said, I know employers are aware of it these days. I know, we're demanding it more balance, but sometimes it just doesn't work. And that's how consuming it is when you don't have that balance. It's like you said, you still have other positive things going on in your life, but it doesn't feel like it. It blows things out of proportion because you are out of proportion. It's, it's just all consuming. It's a yucky feeling to have. And I know we're not the only nurses who were feeling that way or who have ever felt that way, and probably not the last time in our careers. I'm sure there are nurses across the world right now because we have so many listeners who are like, yes, Carrie and Aaron, yes.
Yeah, so I'm sure that's true. And I just want to share because I feel like people may not understand the level of loathing for your job that can occur. And like, I just want to say, like, it wasn't the hospital and it wasn't the system and it wasn't the people I worked with. It was just the situation and maybe a couple of
Right.
people I worked with.
Not naming any
Yes,
names.
but honestly, I mean, I feel really bad to really delve into this, but I've already talked about this publicly before, so I don't know what I'm so worried about. I
Well, I think that just goes with our
yeah,
profession.
exactly. But like, I literally would be driving to work and think about running off the road, not to hurt myself, but just so I would have to go to the ER instead of work that day. I mean, that is a level of
Carrie,
desperation that a nurse should not
that is awful.
have.
No, no,
Yeah,
that is
I know. Like,
awful.
I wasn't looking for like a bridge. I was just looking for like a grassy ditch to like I'd have to get my tire changed
That
or
is not
something. I
okay.
know, but it was that bad. And when I s-
I wish you. Sorry.
I really
you know,
when I started having those type of feelings, and I wasn't like, I didn't want to hurt. Like, I no, I didn't want to get hurt. I just wanted it to be like, oh, I can't come to work today.
though I will say there were multiple times, and that's because we were in that phase, and it was like a year and a half,
It was
wasn't
a
it,
long
Carrie?
time, yeah.
Which was like eternity. But I would be like, I hope I get sick. Maybe I'm getting sick. Am I getting sick tonight? Where, because our work ethic, we don't just call in sick, and I've worked ill, not like contagiously ill, but I've worked with pyelonephritis or
hmm
whatever, and
I love
so
how I'm
I
like,
don't just call in.
like, duh, everyone goes to work
Uh,
with Pilo. Who cares? That's,
in
yeah.
healthcare you do. But anyway, we'll save that tangent for later. Anyway, so we have good work ethic is my point. We're not going to just call in sick because we don't want to go to work. We're not calling in, for mental health days that aren't truly needed, although they might have been. But I was almost legit hoping I would be sick so I wouldn't have to go to work. But yeah, so I mean, I was with you there. I mean, emotionally, it's just it gets to be a struggle. And like you said, it's not always, sometimes it's the job, but sometimes it's not the job. Sometimes it's just the fact, I love medicine. I love what I do. Maybe it's the pressures from your unit, maybe it's your ratios, maybe it's just the balance because maybe you guys are, you've been short staffed for a long time. And so you're working extra shifts and picking up long hours. And, who knows what it is? Maybe it's something unrelated to the job and it's your home life that's a mess right now. And so, but when you're out of balance, man, it is a rough ship to be on.
Well, totally. And in my case, it wasn't really the my job. I liked my job and I had gone to school to do my job and it was my first like role after I got my master's degree. But it was the fact that I couldn't do my job because the unit was so short. They would call me constantly to come staff the unit and I was salary. There was no manager at the time, so I was like filling a lot of that role as well as a clinical nurse specialist. I was doing a lot of the administrative parts and there was just no predictability. Like usually that type of job, you go to work Monday through Friday, you work 8 to 5 and you're done, and because of just the situation, which it wasn't anybody's fault, it wasn't the nurse's fault. They were suffering and they were short staffed and it was hard and it was busier than normal. But my family was suffering because I I couldn't leave the unit. And so I at that point I really needed to know, okay, I have to be able to get off when I say I'm going to get off. And I think the most frustrating part was that the guilt I felt from that I put on myself, and then also the nurses put on me, not meaning to, but just like, you're gonna
Right,
leave, like,
unintentionally because they were
yes. And like
stressed.
when I'm like, I have to leave, my kids will be home
Right.
alone, or they're gonna get off, like the daycare closes, like, because I had arranged my whole life to work, a Monday through Friday gig. And so
Well,
seeing,
right around what's supposed to
yes, and
be.
seeing their face like desperately, like, you can't leave us. I mean, it was
Right, because we've all been there,
terrible.
and you're like, you're the last man on that sinking ship, and you're like, don't
Yes.
go.
And that was so hard for me, and so I just felt bad, and it was bad, and I had a small baby still,
You did.
and so that was hard. And
Well, and let's look at the. Sorry to totally interrupt you. Let's look at just the
but
logistics. Let's look at the logistics here. As a salary paid employee, you number one, you have your expectations, and so in addition to helping on the floor, you still have your responsibilities that you need to do, but you're not getting paid for those extra hours. And I'm sorry, I'm a shift work, floor nurse at this point. I'm I'm a shift girl, and if you were like, "Hey, Erin, we're really short-handed. We're getting slammed. Can you come in?" What's the first thing I ask for?
overtime or on
Yeah,
call
you're
calls
asking me
in,
for
or what's the
yeah,
incentive?
you're asking. I'm asking for incentive pay. I'm asking for bonus pay. I'm not saying like, yeah, let me come in and help you for free when the crap's hitting the fan.
That is a total point, because that was one of the things, and you probably remember I was so irritated because almost everybody in that joint made so much more money than me, and I was doing like two people's jobs, three, two and a half.
And let me make this clear. Carrie was not being a snob and saying like I can't deign to do bedside nursing. It's not that at all. It was just a matter of, you were getting paid to do one job, but you were having to do two. And you were doing it for free in your circumstance. But but if even if you're not, we all reach a point that we're like, enough is enough. We just can't. You only can give so much of
Right.
yourself.
And I couldn't, like, I remember one time where it just reached a pinnacle. I had worked a full shift, I think over my scheduled shift, and then I still had my educator stuff to do, and I was like, well, I'm going to come back and work in my office. And I brought my girls, I hadn't seen them, and so I brought my teenager and my infant to just hang out with me while I did my stuff, like, on my own time. And then it went crazy. Someone found out I was in the office, and so I didn't have. I had sandals on and capris, and they're like, "Get your lab coat and come out here and triage patients." And so my girls sat in the office for like 2 hours while I was in there in the triage treating patients in my sandals and lab coat, and my boss went home.
Oh my good golly. It's no fun. I mean, I had the same situation when I was the nursing director. I the employer was not the most understanding, and again, I was salary, and it was like, no, we need you. It doesn't matter. You're on call 24/7. It doesn't matter if you're at home and you have a brand new baby, or there I had to come into work when my new infant had oh, good heavens, Carrie, I just spaced the name of that. It was, what was the one that was it, the swine flu that year?
Oh yeah,
That was the big
the
thing.
H1N1.
So I had to come into work when he was positive for RSV at like 6 months old. I had an RSV positive baby, and they were like, too bad you're coming in. And I had no choice in the matter. And then again, when a few months later, he contracted swine flu, and that was terrifying. And I again had to come in and make those, choices. And that was not work life balance. I wanted to be home with my infant. I wanted to be home with my newborn, and, nervously watching his every little symptom and breath and seeing that he was okay and not needing to be hospitalized. But instead, I had to come in And there was times that, and again, this is when the economy tanked, and I knew I didn't have the stability of other jobs. There were no other jobs at that point, and so this, I had to have this job. I needed this income, and so they had that power over me. And there were times, because I wasn't doing floor nursing, I was able to bring in my baby because I was like, I cannot leave my child, or I don't have daycare, or I'm not supposed to be working today, and I was called in, and my employer forced me to come in. And so I would bring in the baby on my extra time, come in, essentially for free, because at that point I was salary. But even if I wasn't, even if I was a shift worker, I came in extra. I was going above and beyond. And what, sure enough, somebody saw I had my kids there and complained. And I was so irked because I didn't choose to bring my child to work. And number one, if my employer allowed it, that was none of their business, which they did. But I was forced to come in on my day off with my child. And, they said, well, I didn't realize we were paying, your nurse to run a daycare here. I was so angry. Oh, I wanted to just walk out that day. But of course I didn't, and I was professional. But, these are the things that we deal with when we're looking for that work-life balance, whether it's a mom thing or personal balance with your life and your work. We no longer live to work. We work to live these days in our society, and it's a beautiful thing that we can do that and that we're able to do that. And I think that's all we want. That's just our goal.
Yes, I think so too. And so in that situation, um, in my situation, there isn't another hospital in the suburb that I live in, but there are, luckily for me, a lot of other hospitals. I think there's like 100 hospitals or something crazy in the Houston area. There's like a ton. So I just went to a different hospital.
Yeah, eventually that's what you did.
Yeah.
Great, great, great segue, Carrie.
But I just have to say it again. It was a situation because I really did like the people I worked with, and I really liked my work, and I wish that that hadn't happened because I would have liked to stay there.
Right. And I mean, there was a lot of benefits to it, and you were so excited when you got that job. And I remember you with that frustration saying, oh, Aaron, I would just really love this job, and these people are so great, and I really enjoyed, so and so today. But you were just so frustrated. It was a situational thing, and you were frustrated that you couldn't enjoy those people and you couldn't enjoy your job. And I hear you. I
Yeah,
hear you.
obviously I have guilt feelings still about it.
Well, you're a woman. That's what we do. Okay, back to that beautiful segue you built in for us.
Okay, should we move on to our fake question from fake people?
Yes, let's do our fake questions. It's my favorite fake segment.
Okay. So I've actually had this question a lot. And it
So
is,
it's not all that fake.
it's not, it's just, it is from a person that, many people that we will not speak their name because it's just not really nice to blast
Yeah.
people on the internet that they hate their job. So,
We will
um,
not ever rat you out.
no. So if you write us a question that is sensitive, we will not use your name. But if it is
Yep, let
not
us know.
sensitive, yes, then we will use your name and we will give you shout outs. But, dear Aaron and Carrie, I hate my job, but it is the only hospital in my town. What can I do?
Wah wah. That's a tough one. Short of like quitting nursing altogether and starting your own podcast. No, I'm just kidding.
We're not
Kidding.
quitting nursing.
I know you're gonna cut that part out, but
Okay.
because I had a witch cackle. No, no, that is a hard one because obviously nursing is really wide and varied, and is not just isolated to a hospital environment. Um, but a lot of people love that bedside nursing, and that's what they look for or think of when they initially go into nursing. There's nurse manager positions, there's where you do management and actually more of the business end of things. There's research. You can work in doctor's offices. You can work from home as a case manager for an insurance agency. You can work for prescription and pharmaceutical companies. I mean, there's many, many, many options rather than hospital bedside nursing. That being said, you may want to do hospital bedside nursing, or you may really like that schedule, the 312s a lot of times that offers. Um, and that's a hard one. In my opinion, when you're stuck or you kind of feel like you're stuck, sometimes it's your director. Your director makes a big difference. So I would say, first of all, consider switching to a different department. Your director and your management is huge. There's a lot of processes that go on at an organizational level and a hospital level that maybe they can't control, like sick policy, for instance, or something. But your management and the support or lack of support that you receive from them, like we talked about earlier, makes can make or break your job. Just like your coworkers. If your coworkers are dragging down and making you miserable, or if your patient load is dragging you down, or your patient population, go to a different floor. Switch to a different unit. You may surprise yourself and really end up enjoying your job by just changing departments.
I think that's actually great advice. And I'm not trying to
Thank
sound
you.
like surprised. I just think that was great.
I'm so surprised you had a great idea, Erin.
I did not mean it like that, but I could tell in my voice that that's what it sounded like.
No, you're fine. I know you know I'm fabulous.
Totally. No, but I think that's great. Like thinking about, I think that you really should do some self reflection. Why do you hate your job? Do you hate it because you have problems in the morning getting your kids to school? Do you hate it because you don't like you've done it for 10 years and you're bored? Like what is it that you hate your job? Do you just like I don't know. Like there's a lot of different reasons that you would possibly hate your job. I
Right. And then
think
what
this
can you control there? Are there some things that you can control and some things that you can't?
exactly. And nobody well not very few people are lucky enough to completely love what they do.
Right. And
So
every aspect of what they do.
yes. So even people that are like super famous like actors and they love acting and they're so lucky because they're one of the very few people in the whole world that get to act and they still have parts of their job that they don't like.
Right.
So
Absolutely. That's just called being a grown up.
yeah, so some to some extent you have to kind of make peace with I don't like to chart a billion things about my patient. I'd rather just take care of my patient, but we just have to live with that. But then like I have had times where I have been very burned out in my job and it's you don't always have an option to quit um, for whatever reason or maybe you don't feel like you have an option to quit but there's different ways that you can make your going to work better. um, One of the things that I suggest is if you're not certified, make a goal to be certified. Like do something to develop yourself. A lot of times I think people become dissatisfied with their job because they just kind of feel stagnant and it's like the same, like if you work in a teaching hospital, like it's the same cycle. Like every summer more residents come,
Right.
like every Christmas it's short staffed, like it's just cycle after cycle and like you just start seeing all of the things like come and go. Like, okay, so now we are doing this bundle. Well, we did this 20 years ago and then it went away and then now it's back.
Right.
And you just kind of get like, I don't know, jaded. So if
Mm-hmm.
you start like setting some of your own professional development goals, then you can like kind of get yourself out of that rut. And I have seen this happen a lot where people, like really good nurses, say they have an associate's degree. They are excellent clinicians. They are the people that you want in charge. They're doing great. Like they just like, I don't even need to go back and get my bachelor's or something higher. And for whatever reason, either they're pushed to it or they finally are like, I'm just going to do it. Then they
Right.
do
Something
it. And
changes.
then all of a sudden, they are coming up to me and saying, did you know? Fill in the blank. Like, and they're just
Right. Right.
amazed and they're excited and they're just like in love with nursing again. And it's
Right. And
not
it's not
easy, but it's so worth it for them.
exactly. And it's not the baccalaureate degree itself or the certification itself. It's, I think, the fact that they are emotionally invested again in their job and that they're, it just kind of they're looking at it with new eyes again. And it is, like you said, we get burnout. It's nursing and medicine is hard. It's emotionally taxing. It's physically taxing. And, it's hard not to bring your job home with you. And so we get burnt out. And especially, if you stay in a certain field, even if it's a field you enjoy, sometimes that's difficult. So I think, what I'm hearing from you, Carrie, is, try to take a step back and look at your job. What is it you don't like about your job? What is it you do like about your job? If there's nothing you like about your job, you probably want to switch. But, if there's problems with your job, is it really the job? Is it outside factors from home and family? What is it? Is there things that you can do? And maybe if you can't change those things, change the things you can. And if there's things you can't change, how can you cope with it? What can you do? Do you need to give yourself me time? Do you need one night a week to just relax and so you can decompress, to go back to that work life balance? Maybe your job really isn't stressing you out, it's just your life. And maybe you need to find a way to cope a little better, and to do that self-care that it takes.
What are you talking
So
about? What in the
what am I
world?
talking about?
Yes.
Self-care?
Just kidding. No one does that.
I'm not kidding.
No, I'm
It's
totally joking.
important.
No, it is
I
super
know.
important. It is very important. And I feel like I'm finally learning these lessons now that I'm almost 40, that it is
Right.
important to not always put yourself last, which
It is.
women do, and then mothers do, and children like of adult parents do. Like we do it.
Our
Put our
whole profession does it when we're nursing, when we're on our shifts.
yes.
We skip lunches to go give our patients pain meds, and we don't go use the bathroom or drink enough water so we don't need to use the bathroom
Yes.
because we need to go find that doctor and ask them about this lab value, or whatever it is. So we're built that way, and it's intrinsic in us, and it makes us great caregivers, but we will burn out. And I'm finding that I'm doing it in ways that I didn't even realize. When I take my time to talk to you, Carrie, when take my little time to text you and be like, guess what's going on? Or what did the kids just do? That's me taking time for myself and paying attention to my needs. And so it does, you're right. Like we aren't good at practicing self-care. But guess what, guys, it's out there, it's a real thing. But it does help. So if you don't like your job, think about what you don't like about it, change the things you can. If you really can't, then maybe find some ways to help yourself cope, until until you're at a new place in your life, or maybe you have different options open up to you.
I think that
Right.
is excellent advice. And it's like specifically when we're saying care for yourself, like I really mean like eat well, eat better.
Yes.
Like when your manager comes around the corner with a bucket full of candy, tell her no thanks. And I'm talking about myself. Like I try to
I know.
include healthy things in there too, but sometimes I don't. But just be healthy. We already know because we're nurses. We already know what we're supposed to do because we tell our patients to do it all the time.
I know, and that's so
And
bad.
I I had a hard time telling people like not to lose weight because I was so overweight. And it's like, but a lot of nurses are like that. Like they're wearing insulin pumps because they're type 2 diabetics, and
Right.
it's gotten so bad that they have pumps.
And we're
And
lecturing our patients about their carbs.
yes. And
Hmm.
so it is
Or
really
about their
hard.
fluids when we're not drinking.
Exactly. It's really hard for us to be examples to the nurses, I mean, to the patients when we're not taking care of ourselves and we don't have energy enough to take care of them. And I think most importantly, like I know when I have been like working, 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 my family's the one that suffers.
Absolutely.
Because then I'm
So
just
take care
like,
of those
you,
relationships.
yes, I just leave all of my goodness and all of the energy that I had
Yeah,
for the strangers that I took care of, and then my family
absolutely.
gets chicken nuggets and mom falling asleep on the couch. Like,
And Cheetos.
and Cheetos. Oh, he loves Cheetos. So it's important. So one of my tips um, is meditation, and that sounds totally hippie, but it's making like a comeback, and
It is.
it is really good. There's like a ton of before it was kind of something that people, well, you'd have to go away kind of to a retreat and like learn, or you'd have to find like a mentor or go to classes. But there's apps for that now. And there's an app that I found that um, just helps me. It takes like 5 minutes. Like when I'm stressed, I can just put that on and sit, and every a nurse can find 5 minutes. I think there's one that's even like 2 or 3 minutes. Like you can
Nice.
find
That's awesome.
of just a few minutes, and it makes you feel so much better. And it's not only making you feel better, you are physically better than you were 5 minutes ago. Like your blood
Absolutely.
pressure's lower, you have more oxygen. Like it makes it much better. And then I think Aaron knows this. I have another like personal theory about dealing with stress at work, and that's do you
You're
know?
gonna say it, aren't you? Here it goes, guys. It's her biggest secret.
So when I am okay, so when physicians are um, being challenging or I'm getting yelled at by, I mean, this would never happen. This is like a theoretical, like nurses are yelling at me, or I've dealt with some really difficult patients and we're just not happy with anything that I've done.
That never
Um,
happens to me either, but I've heard some people have that happen.
yes. So hypothetically, when my day is really sucky,
Down in the
I
crapper.
I
What do you do,
do.
Carrie?
I lock myself in my office, and you can lock yourself somewhere, and I play
Clean
music and I
supply.
dance, and I call it dance therapy, and I
Dance
dance.
therapy.
Yes, I dance my butt off, and then I feel better, and then I
I
just
love
go
it.
on with my day.
I take a minute and I send a text to my husband. I check in on the kids with the babysitter. I step off the floor, take a minute to just focus on my family because, of course, that's what's important to me. Or one of my other biggest problems is I get hangry. And when my day is overwhelming me and I find myself having to like turn down the snarling, I go feed myself.
No,
And it's
totally.
it's not food therapy. I mean, emotional eating is a whole separate issue, but when I start getting hungry and when I start getting grumpy, my husband knows. He just like he puts his head down and he just oh, I just lost my earpiece. He puts his head down and he just starts making me food. And so, but when I go and if I just take a snack, even if it's a protein bar, I stick in my pocket that I can carry with me and nibble over the next 10 minutes in between rooms or something, I I make better I make better choices. My thoughts are clearer. My charting goes more smoothly because we all love to chart and we want to spend as much time as possible doing that. So,
Yes.
it just does better when I take that little minute. That self care, guys, is feeding myself, refreshing my water bottle that I've been meaning to do for an hour and a half, and but I never actually have. And I'm like licking the last drop out of the bottom. So hanger is a real story, guys. It's a true story.
Yes. Hey, Aaron, do you want to talk about some nurses in the news?
Yes, I definitely do. And you've got a really good topic for us today. We changed it the last minute, and I'm kind of excited about
I
it.
am too, because living in Texas, this was a huge deal. It was a huge deal all over the United States,
Oh my goodness, yeah, we were all
like
totally
and
scared about it.
world, but especially in Texas, we had an Ebola patient. And so this was, um, if you missed 2014, let me remind you, Ebola was a huge deal, and there was a lot of people dying in certain countries in Africa, and we had no idea what was going to happen, and we were preparing for the worst. Because we thought it was going to be, a pandemic. Luckily, that didn't happen. There was a huge effort by multiple nations, and of course the World Health Organization. And so now Ebola is contained again, um, but the effects of it are still being felt 2 years later. And so in Dallas, there was a patient that had come over from, I can't remember if he was an American or not. I can't remember all the details. I just remember he had Ebola. Like he came off the plane, he knew he was sick, and he thought he probably had Ebola, but he still came and exposed like his family and neighbors and everything. And it was in Dallas, and so he came to the hospital because he was so ill, and he had advanced stage disease. And because everyone was on heightened alert, luckily they kind of recognized it very quickly, but they had to wait for the confirmation. But it was so early in that process that the hospitals didn't even have protocols really to deal with something like that.
Right. And now, like, I mean, I still get a little nervous when I hear about it. And it's like when, we got the Zika virus that came out, I got that kind of that same feeling. You were like,
Yes.
oh, am I ready for
I
this?
think people had
But we,
PTSD after Ebola when the Zika started
it's
coming
true.
out.
It's so true. But we didn't have protocols. I mean, we do now, and I'd still be scared. But it was kind of a scramble to get those protocols in place. And okay, what does the CDC say, what does the WHO say, and how can we be safe and in caring for these people. And I remember some nurses were like, I just wouldn't do it, I'd refuse the assignment. And yeah, it was a
It
scary time.
was a
So
very
okay,
scary
so
time.
what happened?
So, an update. So, if you remember, Erin, that there was a nurse. Well, she was one of the ICU nurses that first took care of that patient, and she got Ebola.
Yes, she contracted it, I remember
Yes,
that.
and she sued the hospital, and she won. And this verdict just came out. And I'm not saying like
Because fortunately she lived.
she did. Spoiler alert, she lived.
Fortunately.
But and
Yay.
I'm not saying that it was like a good thing that she either sued or won, but when I was reading this article, I can totally see why she felt like she wasn't protected. She came to work just like we do every day. She was an ICU nurse. She had a patient that they were saying, ruling out Ebola on, and she was given a printout from Google by her manager to tell her what information she needed.
Right, and let's be clear, this wasn't like a patient who came in for an appy
Uh-uh.
and then they found out, oh golly wolly, they're positive for Ebola. Like, I mean, their primary diagnosis was rule out
Yeah.
Ebola.
And
So, this is
it was
something that should have been discoverable.
yes. And so she was given and I remember the pictures of this, and this was like all of it, because Houston is not that far from Dallas, like super close. We have people that commute like by plane, or because it's so close. It's only like 3.5 hours. And so there's people all the time back and forth. So we were like very interested in this story. And we saw the pictures of how the nurses were dressed to take care of this Ebola patient. And they had like, I think they had like an N95 mask and just a regular isolation gown. And she said they double gloved and she double bootied her feet. And there was, let's see, they kind of they use like giant plastic sheets to kind of like isolate the area. And she said that there was no disposal. Like she had never had training on how to dispose of like hazardous material, and it was kind of just like piling up in a corner of the room. Her
Oh my
her neck and
heavens.
hair and everything was exposed during the whole time. And shocking, she came down with it. Like she started feeling sick. But the killer to me, and this is why I think a lot of people felt like refusing, because she went home and exposed everybody in her life. Because they're
Right.
like, and they told her,
Absolutely.
oh, yeah, there's very low chance that you would get this, even though he had like active disease where there was lots of blood and body fluids, and very high chance we now know that's very dangerous.
Well, and not just her. I mean, obviously this is about her, but it isn't just about her. Like it's everybody in her life. Think of, housekeeping or environmental services staff, and they don't have the benefit. They're wonderful and they're amazing hard workers, and oh my gosh, I love you for doing your job. Let me just put that plug out there. Thank you. But they don't have microbiology and cellular biology and organic chemistry and all these things that we get, in our education as nurses and practitioners and providers. And so when they're coming in to clear out those piles of isolation garb, they're trusting us and their nursing staff and the directors that they're getting isolated properly as well to do their jobs. And, because if not, if your environmental services staff isn't properly disposing of it, you can isolate all you want. And if they're improperly doing it, it doesn't matter what you just did in the room, and so this could have been, really a pandemic. And it's quite fortunate that it
It's
wasn't.
fortunate and strategic because there was so much resources placed on this problem. Thankfully, I have to update. It was a surgical mask with a plastic shield.
Yeah, no, it was not an N95. It was, I was like, wait a minute, maybe later on it was an N95,
That is
but
terrible.
I,
Terrible.
no, that's, yeah, and for, disclaimer out there, there is, if there's ever a patient that comes in with an unknown, or maybe something that you don't have protocols for readily in your hospital that are already built in, you have, every hospital should have an infection prevention department. We can look at the, CDC recommendations, the WHO recommendations. You always err on the side of caution. Negative pressure rooms, whatever it is you need to do, full on. I know ERs a lot of time when they do their disaster
Hmm.
training, they have full body hazmat suits and all of that stuff. That all should be available in the hospital, at least to a limited number of people.
Yes.
Um, and always, always, always err on the side of caution, um, rather than good luck with that.
I know. And they said that after he got his diagnosis, which was like the next day, I think, or it was pretty quick, then they were like, okay, put on a hazmat suit. So yeah, they thought he had it. So I can see where the court found that hospital at fault. That, yeah, that's sad. Put the hazmat suit on.
It is. Well, and certainly I know I can hear the people out there, the naysayers saying, well, she should have known better, and she should have asked for something, or she could have asked for more research, or, but again, as a nurse, you trust that your employer or your charge nurse, or whatever, that they've got your back and that they've already done that
Right.
research. And because you can't, and maybe you're not as familiar, let's be honest, some policy and procedure manuals aren't the easiest to
No,
navigate.
and the bedside nurse is not the one writing the protocols. So
Exactly.
you're trusting the people that are writing them that they're up to date and they're the best practice. And most, I mean, a lot of hospitals do involve like some bedside nurses, but I'm sure she probably was not on that committee. Like, so she
Exactly.
didn't know.
She was on a different committee for her clinical letter.
Yes, but I think the saddest part, because I'm very happy that she lived, but she has not returned to nursing, and that is sad.
That is sad, because typically, we don't get into nursing for the super lucrative career. It's because we have a passion for it. And for somebody, to lose that, or to be scared away from that, and and I'm inferring here, I don't know her specific reasons, but irregardless, it's sad that it came to that. But hopefully, like you said, we now have protocols in place, and hopefully this sheds some light on not just Ebola specifically, but generally what do we need to do when we encounter an unknown disease, or a disease that is, less common, that we don't have ready-made protocols available. And so, how do we handle this in the future? So, good article. That was
Thanks.
um, really interesting. I liked that. I don't want to say I liked it, but you know what I mean.
Yes. So can I do? I have to share this because it's like the article right under it,
Oh, okay. Bonus material.
and it's about the Ebola virus. I just thought this was super interesting that the Ebola virus can linger for a year or even longer in the semen of some men that have recovered from it,
Who were
that were
infected?
infected and that
Oh,
recovered.
no
Yes, it's
way.
crazy, right? They thought it was 3 months, like back in 2014, but now they're saying no.
Really big
Yeah, it's a
difference.
huge difference, right?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I had no
So
idea.
you're feeling better, and then you're just like, yeah, it's the virus can still be in there.
Guess not. Holy cow.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with Zika they found. It's
Wait, you just blew my
I
mind.
know. Right, I was like, I have to share that because it's so crazy.
Wow.
They said in one man's case, at least 565 days after he recovered, they found fragments of Ebola in his semen.
That's like a year and a half. Oh my goodness.
I mean,
Okay.
so
Buyer
I
beware.
know if you're on Tinder and someone's like, "Oh yeah, I recovered from Ebola," dude, swipe, swipe. Is it left or right? I don't know. We're both been married a long time.
I don't know. But just swipe and move
Yeah.
on, girlfriend. You don't need that negativity in your life.
Oh gosh.
Oh, good heavens. Okay.
Oh man, now we're giving
Okay.
more dating advice. Avoid the Ebola, and if you're dating, don't do it at work. I remember that. Keep it to yourself.
You need to cut that whole chunk out. Everything after the swiping. The Tinder was good. After that, no.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Are we good?
Yes.
Okay. Good land. Maybe we should do this when we're sleep deprived. I think we do better.
I had a 5-minute nap today.
Woo! Not Liam. And poor kid got to bed late again tonight because we had our friends over, and I'm like, oh, Jiminy Christmas. He was so tired.
Oh goodness.
So, okay, I'm
Oh wait,
stopping
no.
recording.
We have to say our goodbye.
Oh, wait. Oh, I forgot we didn't do that part. Just kidding.
Oh no.
Okay. No! You say goodbye yourself.
Oh.
Okay.
Let's
I hope
see.
my phone's not giving feedback into my mic. Thank you, baby. All right. And
Are you recording?
you're
Oh, okay.
recording? I never stopped.
Okay.
Ew. Okay, do you want me to do it?
Yeah, I still think we need to come up with something, but maybe not this minute. But we really need to come up with a great way to leave.
Okay. Yeah. But until then, we're gonna wing it.
I really
All right.
like I want to use this phrase somehow. Um, that sometimes you need a sister stat. I don't know how we are going to use it, but I really want to use it.
Oh, we still haven't come up with a tagline.
Okay. Well, that topic was very interesting. I like when we do nurses in the news, and
Yeah,
I think that though
makes things a little more personal.
yes, but I think it's time to go.
Yeah, we've kind of yammered on today.
Yeah.
Sorry. We hope it's been good. Nope. You're like, oh, I hope they keep going.
Oh, but I have an update. As we were speaking, I was looking at our stats and stuff. Nope, I was looking at our comments, and we actually have some real questions for next time.
You know, we have real questions from real people
Yay.
instead of fake questions from fake people. So thank you. Keep the comments coming. I love that. I love that we are live now and that we get to we're interacting with our audience. It's really exciting. So thank you everybody out there. We really appreciate it. And thank you to everybody who listened this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. And we can't wait to hear your comments and feedback. Remember to reach out to us on spacing what I was going to say.
Don't forget you can find us on Twitter at Stat Sisters. You can email us Gmail, or you can email us statsisters@gmail.com. And Erin is kind of a genius at Instagram, so we're on there. And where else are we?
And Facebook. We've got a big old Facebook page, and you can send us a message right there. We made it nice and easy for you.
Oh yeah, and statsisters.com. We are everywhere.
Yep. We are all
Well,
around.
we're not on MySpace or Tumblr.
Is that still around?
Yes, that is, and we're not on Vine.
Well,
Vine's
I never
going away.
I never MySpaced anything. So, but anyways, find us, like us, hit us up, let us know what you think, let us know your comments, and it's been great chatting with you today. We'll see you next time.
Bye.